So, leading up to 2015, 2012, 2011, or 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015. Those years were transformational years. I was going through a constant inner struggle. What I now realize was spiritual warfare. Coming up as a kid, my mom, she's Christian. I would go to church with her all the time. We would have Bible study that she would drop me off to. We went to Palestine Church, Baptist Church, I believe. And I was a kid in church, man. I loved it, actually. You know, I loved the Bible study. I loved learning the stories. You know, that's where my love for those stories initiated. That's where it started from. I'd be in the choir, sing the choir, go to choir practice. But also, you know, there were times I would go to the masjid with my father. He was Muslim. And I would go there and I would see a different way to pray. You know, I would see the love of those people and the love that they have for one another through their faith. I learned discipline, structure in your faith. You know, from the Muslims and the masjid and my father. I learned that not only, you know, can God walk the earth as a man or prophesy through people, God is everywhere. God is all things. Allah is all things. You know, that's what I learned from him. So I had that rooted in me from childhood. Took the Shahada. You know, the Shahada is professing your not only your submission, your obedience, you know, your love for Allah, for God. You know, you do it in front of your in front of the people. You know, when you recite the words from the Imam. Forgive me if I'm saying that wrong. But you recite the passage, and after that they say, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. It means God is great. God is great. God is great. Remember that. So that's rooted in me. So it never leaves you. So when I was going through my own spiritual warfare in those years from say 2010 to 2015, you know, in there I was doing a lot of soul searching. In there I had went back to the church. I gravitated towards, through Link, I was working a summer school program, and I met a lady by the name of Cassandra Wainwright, and she worked for Link also. And at that time I was doing my own soul searching. I was carrying around the Bible. I was, you know, had my own studies I was looking into, and just gravitated to her. And lo and behold, she was a pastor. And minister, or whatever the word is for a woman pastor. She was one, and you know, told me about her place of worship, her place of faith, family church that they built up themselves, called Heaven Sent Ministries. And you know, I eventually ended up going there and visiting, and I loved it. I loved the people, I loved the environment, I loved the close quarters of how small it was, you know, the music we would play. It all had a major effect on me. So I would go to Bible study there, and at the time when I started going to Bible study, they were in the books of First Samuel, 2 Samuel. I learned about Samuel, King David, Saul, you know, all those stories. Solomon, Bathsheba, all that. So it's like I entered into that period of the church when they were studying that the most. And it was the story I needed the most. So there was one time in church we were, you know, people come to the front, they give a testimony. I had wrote a song, or a verse to a song, a group I was in called Masters of Ceremony, MOC, me and a few of my brothers. And I wrote a verse to the song we had recorded called Dead and Gone. And, hold on a second. And when it was time for a testimony at Heaven Sent, I recited that verse in front of the church. The verse is, when your boy is dead and gone, and it's time to go meet my maker, just know I'm leaving this world to go on to something greater. I can tell he has a plan for me, so please don't cry. Just think of all the good times you spent with me in my life. Now just pour a little liquor. Say a prayer for my remembrance. And man, I hope these haters put an end to all their differences. Just know that I am gone, but I promised I never leave you. My influence on this earth is everlasting for my people. On a somber note, what will happen to my 3 kids when I cannot kiss their cheeks and I'm not here to tuck them in? Damn. This life is crazy, got me caught up in the jam. I gotta straighten out this life so they'll be happy who I am, or was. And you tell them I was doing this because, so that I can make a name and I can release 100 doves. But wait, my time ain't over. I'll keep marching like his soldier until God takes me away and he says my life is over. So that was the verse I did in front of the testimony, for the testimony. And, you know, there was no big applause or anything. It was almost like a drawback. Like it was like an awe kind of thing. Like, man, it was powerful, man. When I went to sit down, I sat next to my brother, and his name is Jonathan, and he was like he's like the rise of the king. He said the rise of the king, and I didn't even know he was a music producer at the time. He would make beats and everything, and he said rise of the king. And I had made a book. I was working on a book at the time, and that was the title. I hadn't even told him that. It was amazing too. So that church had a major impact on my life. There was one time they had alternate days. When we would have service. So one Sunday it would be at Heaven, another Sunday it would be at a different church. That's one thing I liked about the church also, is that we moved around. We weren't stagnant, man. We moved around, went to different churches, seen different people, touched different people, met different people, all kind of stuff, man. But there was one day in the beginning when I started going, I didn't get the memo. And I went to church. I was excited going there. I was headed to drop my son Curtis off before I went to church. And on the way to his mom's house, I seen a guy under the underpass, and I drive past him. He's just sitting there, kind of leaned up against the highway beam or whatever, leaning there, and on his shirt he had a Puppet Master thing. It has a little triangle, whatever thing, and he's dangling the strings, and it had a person, puppet, but above the thing on the hand it said God. That's crazy. So I drive past and I stop. I was like, man, is he homeless? Well, he don't have a sign. I'm like, what is he standing there for? And I got Curtis in the back seat. He's asleep. I turned around, make a U-turn, go back to him and say, hey man, what's going on? I was like, you need a ride? He was like, yeah, I need a ride. I was like, I can take you where you need to go, hop on in, He said he went back and a little bit further and grabbed his stuff and put it in the trunk and jumped in the car. And I'm asking him where he needs to go, but the main thing on my mind is like, why are you standing there with no sign? Like, what are you doing? Like most people, if they're homeless or whatever, they have a sign for what they need. He was like, I don't use signs. I don't need a sign. You're my sign. He said, I pray. He said, if I need something, I pray for it, and God gives it to me. He said, I needed food. Somebody comes along and they bring me food. I pray for a ride. You come along, give me a ride. So imagine me getting all that information there, and my mind's being blown in the moment. And on the way to church, I pick up a homeless guy who prays for everything he needs from God, doesn't hold signs, and he also knew the Bible like the back of his hand. So I asked him where he needs to go. But as we're driving, I have my notebook, I have my Bible with me and everything. I tell him I was headed to church, And he said, man, he has a few passages he wanted to write down for me to remember and things like that and all kind of stuff. Wrote it down in my notebook as he was telling me where he needed to go. We stopped at a gas station. He went into the gas station. I thought that's where he needed to go. He came back in the car, wanted me to take him somewhere else. I'm just along for the ride, so shoot, at this point I don't even care. It's almost like a testimony. I'm ready to go to church and say, hey, look, this is what happened to me today. And we ended up going past this International House of Prayer, IHOP. Went past it, and then we stopped a little bit further past it, and he asked him to let him out there. And I was like, all right. Nice to meet you. Appreciate you giving me the information and the Bible passages. He appreciated me for giving him a ride. And the last thing he told me, he said, don't go off the path. He said, stay on the path. And that was his last words to me. So, that was real impactful too. But I ended up dropping him off, taking my son to his mom's, and I tell her what happened. She's like, it's crazy, but don't ever do that crazy stuff again. You could have been a killer or something. You could have been anybody. don't pick up those people while you got Curtis's car. And I was like, yeah, I understand. I got it. I know. But that was crazy. So I leave her house and then head to church, and that was one of the days that, Heaven Sin was at a different church, and I just didn't know where we were meeting at. So that was impactful, man. So people had a major influence on my life. Other, very impactful things happened during that time period, because that was my time period of seeking and soul searching, and different performances with me at the Epicurean. It was a performance I had with my brothers, man. We tore the house down, man. It was crazy. I walked out of there. We did a song with me. My brother John ended up staying on stage longer after our set, and just coming off the dome of telling people we need to unite, and come together, and love, peace, and harmony, and all that good stuff. And it was like a church in there. We were walking out the door, and the lady taps me on the shoulder. I turn around, she's crying. She says, "Thank you guys, thank you for helping me. Thank you." We just performed. That's a very powerful and emotional song for anybody knows it and listen to it. It's called "With Me." But man, that was amazing. So a lot of good things were happening during that time, but also in that time frame there was a lot of turmoil in my life. During that time frame, I had spent time in jail for traffic crap. In there, I was in there, and people, it's weird being in there. You kind of go to jail and you try to. It's almost like it was almost like an escape for me, because it was almost like a solitude. But it's like in there, that's all they do is watch, drama and court shows and things. I guess they're trying to beat their cases, but it's odd to me. But I use that time period to do more building, kind of take the discipline of my own actions, not taking care of that and all that kind of stuff. But leading up to that, hold on a second.